The Stourhead Estate in Staunton, Wiltshire, England was designed by Henry Hole II and Henry Flitcroft between 1741 and 1765. The park is set stylistically in the period of 1400 to 1800 Central Era. This garden estate was significant at the time as it took a hold of English imagination by controlling and taming nature in the gardens. It carefully creates symmetrical arrangements inside geometrically bound spaces. But what's ironic and rather intriguing about this garden is that even though the goal is to connect to the symmetry, variety, and irregularity of nature, it required a very calculated design. This estate and garden area of Stourhead connect most to the idea of how the plan of design is so important to the success of the whole estate. So much planning of the geometries of the spaces and symmetrical arrangements needed to be planned perfectly in order to recreate a man-made version of nature that was convincing. Meanwhile, this also interestingly uses nature, trees, water, and other vegetation as the mass that creates very natural and picturesque spaces and views. This is similar to how the buildings of Europe in the time period of Le Corbusier utilized mass to create spaces rather than spaces to distinguish mass. To give the stroller incentives for moving forward. These incentives are either a clearly distinguished path or a series of events and incidents along that path, but usually both. They can tempt you until they satisfy you. Experience of Stourhead Gardens is as follows. Stourhead's garden is mainly located a little distance from the house in a secluded valley and laid out around a roughly triangular man-made lake and covers 27 acres. After leaving that lake house and entering the garden, visitors can easily begin to forget about specific paintings and they become absorbed by rich vegetation and flowers and scents, as well as the sunlight coming through the leaves of the trees. Specifically, the stage of transition between the Temple of Flora and the next building is perhaps the longest in the garden, when visitors become most absorbed in admiring and smelling the flowering shrubs, finding and identifying the rare trees, as well as wandering short distances from the path and so on. The geometries and their creation of moments with the structures in the garden create a very serene and aesthetic experience, indicative of the time period and the quality of the gardens of this time period.